Hey guys! It's Tiny Tom Logan hiding behind some boxes. Right, so, oh, hang on a minute. Right, we'll do it this way instead. Oh, I'm going to knock them all off. Okay, so heatsink testing. I've not done any air coolers for ages, not on the channel at least. We're always keeping up to date and doing them on the website, but it's kind of shifted now so that I don't necessarily always do them for the channel and stuff like that. So anyway, we've been using the 2011 rig for an age, and it was a really good CPU because at the end of the day it put a lot of heat into the CPU cooler, and it really helped us, especially with the overclocks that we were doing. It meant that we could separate the really big coolers from the small coolers, but it started to get to the point where I was thinking to myself, well, it is a little outdated now. It's not kind of up to date with the sort of stuff that you guys are buying. Now, yes, there are a lot of you that are running old kit, but we kind of need to move the reviews along. So what I've done is I've changed the whole setup. Now, because of that, that means that the old graphs and all of the old testing is now literally pointless. We can't, you know, compare them to each other anymore. So with that, I put the word out. I'm going to do a video, and we're going to do a massive review where we're going to do a big roundup and test everything on that's currently available on the new rig, so that when new stuff comes out, it can drop into an already fairly mature graph. Now, the problem with that was the reply that I got, in that Noctua pretty much sent everything other than the L12. But one of the most important things for this, now I have done most of these brands before, but something that has been coming up on the YouTube video comments so much over the last few months is cryo rig. So I can now go, woohoo, we can have a little party. We have all of the cryo rig stuff here as well. So this is going to be a massive review. We've got some humongous testing for you. I'll explain how we've tested it, show you the kit. But what we've done is we've got massive graphs, but then we've also condensed them down into little kind of specific graphs to help split them up as well. So if you like the old TTL kind of style, go and get yourself a biscuit, go and get yourself something to eat, get nice and comfy. This is a good one. Okay, so first things first, get the test kit out of the way. What we've done is we've plumped for a 6700K. Went for the i7 with the extra hyper threading, little bit more heat there, and it's a mainstream socket. It's the 1151 socket, and it's kind of the area where everyone's kind of aspiring to be at the moment. Now, what we did is we actually did 3 different levels of testing, where we did a 4.2 gigahertz run, a 4.6 gigahertz run, and a 4.7 gigahertz run. The 4.2 was technically an undervolt because it was 4.2 gigahertz at 1.2 volts. Now, we went for 4.2 because that's like the turbo speed. We went for 1.2 because you can easily get them running at 1.2 volts. Although, if you're out there now and you're running auto volts, if you go in, download CPU Z, you'll see it's probably running about 1.24, 1.25 volts, maybe more. It doesn't need that many volts, and that's why we never say that auto is stock volts. Auto volt is you've not changed it yourself. That's all it is. It's not stock. You can get them running happily. Anyway, so we've undervolted one a little bit. We then did a 4.6 gigahertz run at 1.3 volts, and then we just about managed to squeeze out 4.7 gigahertz out of our CPUs at 1.35 volts. Now, that was an absolute top draw. Now, the other thing is, if you're thinking about overclocking, don't just copy us. Please use your CPUs and go through and manually see what yours is capable of doing. I am going to be doing overclock guides. They are coming up. I am getting the jobs out the way. We are getting there. Anyway, so we just about managed to squeeze 4.7 out. We couldn't get 4.8. I've not found a 4.8 chip yet either. So we have those 3 different runs. What we do is we take OCCT, we run it in AVX mode, And what we do is we let the system idle for sort of like 10 minutes or so, do you know what I mean? Just so that it kind of evens itself out. You don't want to take a really cold system and go that way. And then what we do is we do a 30-minute stress test with 90% of the memory being used. It's in Linpack mode as well, and then we just let it run. And we have an 80-degree threshold cutoff. And the good thing about OCCT as a bit of software, you can set the maximum temperature that you want. It'll actually stop for you as well. So half the time when we're running these tests, what we will do is we will set the test run and we're working on something else at the same time. Now the most important thing when you're doing heatsink tests is the ambient temperature of the room. Because what you do is you take your maximum temperatures, you add, say for argument's sake, we've got 4 cores. So what we would do is we would add them all up and then divide them by 4 so that we get an average temperature. That then takes out, you know, sometimes you get a hot core on the CPU, that sort of thing. So we do that. Then what we do is we would we would subtract ambient temperature of the room. Now, because we're not new to this type of thing, what we do is we've got aircon, we set it to 20 degrees. So we have a temperature controlled 20 degrees Celsius room. It's kind of a nice kind of medium sort of setting. I know there are going to be people out there that are like, I live in a desert, it's always 35 degrees. Well, at the same time, there's also people out there that live in the cold and it's not necessarily that warm all the time. But the good bit is you then take out any fluctuations. Although with the way we test, like I said, the room temperature is always within about 0.5 degrees, give or take. And the system temps don't really kind of fluctuate too much, and it evens itself all out. So by taking the ambient temperature away from the average temperature, that then gives us our delta temperature. So they're the 3 temperatures that you'll see in the graphs. Although, to be honest with you, we don't need to have the 20 degrees delta ambient because it's always the same. Kit we're using, we said 6700K, then we've gone for relatively, not screaming edge overclocking style kit. It's just kind of normal kit. So we've got the Ranger in there, which is the BOGO, entry level Rampage Republic of Gamers motherboard. We then graphics card wise, again, we've gone with something that we've had around for a while, and it's the 380. Now, it's not a screaming edge card. It's not the coolest card. It's not the hottest card. It's kind of middle of the run. It works okay. It's also one of the Strix models, so all the heat does go into the case as well. Although we only do CPU related tests, so it's only kind of background heat that it's going to put in there. It's also one of the reasons why we end up letting it idle for a bit first. So that's the kit that we've got. It's all being housed in a Cooler Master case, and the power supply on the bottom is the V850 from Cooler Master as well. Stock case fans. We do run the case fans at 12 volt though, and that's just because when it comes to fan speeds and stuff, if you put them on the motherboard, they can fluctuate far too much. So just by going 12 volts, then that means we have a very fixed set of results, and it's never going to change. With the fans on the coolers as well, we also run those at 12 volts. When we do an individual case fan review, heatsink review I should say, if they come with fan speed reducers, we always do a full speed result and then a slowed down result anyway. But if we do, where there's so much difference between these, some come with them, some don't, blah, blah, blah. We've just gone for the 12 volt right the way through. And the bit that you need to kind of remember is if you spin the fan slower, yes, it will get a bit warmer temperature wise, but it's just a way that we can compare them all fairly, because otherwise there's far too many variables and we would end up with hundreds, if not thousands of results. But talking of results, so when it comes to tests, what we've done is we've got those 3 tests that I said to you about. We've got the 4.2 gigahertz runs, we have the 4.6 gigahertz runs, and we have the 4.7 gigahertz runs. And we're going to spin the graphs up so that you can have a look. Don't forget, if there are any parts that you're interested in, what you can do is just pause. It's really nice and simple, but we're putting all of the information up for you so that you can go through, scroll through, and just pause and unpause as you see fit. But the most important thing is, if you're fed up with pausing and unpausing, what you can do is go to the Overclock 3D website, where we have all these graphs separated out for you, so it's much easier for you to be able to scroll through. And we've also got all of the pictures, the installation, a lot more information on the coolers individually as well. And it just means that if you are interested in a specific cooler in this, you can go through, find it, and we have them all on separate pages as well. I think the review's like 40 pages long. So there's a lot more information on the site that we just couldn't squeeze in to a video. But we've got 3 massive graphs, and that's obviously a lot of information, and it can be difficult to pick between which one's which. So what we've done is we've separated them out into some handy groups. So in the first of our separated graphs, what we've done is we've taken the 92mm based coolers. These are obviously can be a lot smaller. Some of them are a bit fatter. It's really kind of, it's just a nice place to start. And we think at the start at the bottom and we'll work our way up. So with this, we've got the Noctua NH-U9S, which is $47.99. That one there. And then we've got the NH-D9L. Now the difference between these two is the U9S is like a single stack, but it's quite thick. And then the D9L is actually a 92mm version of the NH-D14. It's probably the best way I can explain it, other than it's only got one fan on it. That one comes in at $38.99. You've then got the Arctic Freezer 11, which is $23.99. And then we've got the Cryorig M9, which comes in at a puny £17. So we have those, and when we put them into the graph, I've actually kind of read them in the positions that they come on the graph anyway. So what we can see is we're going to go with the, I'm not going to say the delta temperature, which in this is all in the 50s. We're just going to go with the average temperature, because we know with our testing that we've got 20 degrees that you can take off if you want a delta anyway. So we'll just go with the ones, and it's on the outside of the graphs. It's easiest for me to read. So what I would say with this is you've got 71.5 and then 72.5 between the two Noctuas. But when you look at the price, there's a fair bit between them. So I would actually, if you were to put those head to head, I would say that the D9L is the better cooler if you've got room for it in your rig. So you do need to kind of keep that in your mind. The Arctic Freezer at £24 is actually really good value for money. But the thing that I will say with this is it can make a lot of racket. The mount on it is okay, but really in this end of the market, the M9 for £17 is a bit of a steal. And one of the things that we need to kind of remind you with this is that it was tested at 4.7 gigahertz, so it's in our final set of graphs. So yes, that is right. I think it is the cheapest cooler that we've got on test. Actually passed all of our tests. Now when we were testing on 2011, you ended up that in the last graph you only really had the massive full tower coolers, like big chunky mothers, and then the AIOs. But with the Skylake socket, in the fact that we're running like the 1151, the 6700K, it's actually quite mad that a cooler this small can keep it in check. And like I said, 79 degrees, so it's below our 80-degree threshold. It was actually a little, you know, it was great. Yes, it was making a lot of noise. I certainly wouldn't wanted to have sat beside this continuously, but as far as value for money is concerned, especially if you had a lower overclock, or, you know, let's face it, actually taming the volts more yourself, I would say I wouldn't want to go above 1.25 volts with this, at least on the 6700K. But if you're running the i5 or something a little low, you may be able to get a little bit more out of it. But I would say this is kind of comfortable with a decent variable fan speed, and it should keep your system relatively quiet, but, you know, cool enough as well is the most important thing. But really, what I would personally say is that the M9 would win for me on value, but the D9L I would say is the perfect mix. The Arctic made a little bit too much noise. It's not bad, but, you know, when you can get this one so much cheaper, I would have gone for this one. When you go up to that kind of slightly beefier 92mm mark, I would pick this just because there's not enough between the two to warrant the extra cost. Okay, so moving on to 4 coolers, but they're all 120mm or 140mm downdraft coolers. So these are the coolers that you might use if you're short on space or you've got a narrow case, an ITX case maybe, depending on the sort of system that you're running. So we have the Silverstone NT06 Pro, which came in at $49.99. Then we've got the Noctua NH, if I have the box around the right way, C14S, which come in at $58.99. Then we've got the considerably teeny tiny Regindec Parlous, and it's called LP, and that's $29.99. And then the most expensive one is the Be Quiet Dark Rock TF, and that's £65. Now, there's £35 between these. You go from £30 basically up to £65. But amazingly, there's only 1 degree between them. And this was the one that we kept coming back to look at the most, because 1 degree between them, but £35 difference. I mean, it's a bit of a hard one to, a hard pill to swallow when you really say that out loud. I mean, I will go as far as to say you can have the twin fans on the C14 if you want. So if you're looking for a lot of airflow going down to help keep other components on your motherboard cool, the Noctua does pretty well there and isn't as expensive as the Be Quiet. The Be Quiet is actually the tallest one that we've got here. And the mount is just not particularly nice. None of the Be Quiets are nice to go with, to be honest with you. The one kind of hiding in the corner is the Silverstone, although it technically was the coolest on test. But the outright winner and the cheapest is the Parlous from Regindec. If you're looking for a low profile, down blowing cooler, this is an absolute cracker. You may not like the red and white sort of style fan, although it does go with the OC 3D colours, but when it's only going to cost you 30 quid, it's not really going to be that big a deal. If you wanted to change the fan, you'd still be saving money over all of the other ones. So when you put these together in this batch like this, the Regindec is the one that you want to be buying. With this one, we're on to 120mm based single and twin stack coolers. So basically it's an upright cooler, doesn't matter whether it's 1 or 2 stacks, it just needs to have a 120mm fan on it. So we've got the Noctua NH-U12S, which comes in at $49.49. We've then got the Scythe Ninja, which comes in at $37.99. We've got the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro, which comes in at $61.98. The Silverstone AR03 comes in at $34.99. The Arctic Freezer i32, which comes in at $23.97. Alpenfon Matterhorn, which comes in at $40.55. CryoRig H7 comes in at $53.95. Be Quiet Pure Rock, which comes in at $26.99. Geelid Black Edition comes in at $49.99. Cooler Master Hyper 212X, $27.97. Geelid Antarctica comes in at £37, and the Be Quiet Shadow Rock 2 comes in at $33.99. Now for me, when we look at the graphs on this, what I would say instantly is draw attention to the Scythe Ninja. I told you before, $37.99, and it's up there near the top. Yes, it is beaten by the Noctua NH-U12S, but it comes in at about £12 cheaper, so as far as I'm concerned, the Scythe here, I would say that's a clear win. The other ones that I would draw attention to is the Arctic Freezer i32. It's only $23.99. It's actually the cheapest one in the pack, and I would say that would be our value for money. But one thing I would say is in third place at £61.98 is the Be Quiet. That's a twin stack cooler. It's a lot of money, and it still didn't win. It's clearly the most expensive one there by almost a whole £10. So that is just one of those coolers that I would say it just goes to prove that you don't necessarily get more if you spend more. When we move on to 140mm single stack coolers, we've got the Noctua NHU14S that comes in at $49.99. We have the Scythe Mugen Max, which comes in at $37.99. We've got the CryoRig H5 Ultimate, which comes in at $44.99. CryoRig H5 Universal, which comes in at $37.98. We've got the Be Quiet Dark Rot 3, which comes in at $51.17. Gielid Tranquilo Rev 3, $29.99. And then the Regintech Erebos, which comes in at $35.22. When we show you the graph, you always get that one courier rings the bell when you're trying to get your filming done. So when we bring the graph up, what I would say is that the Scythe Mugen Max does really well here for its price. It's in second place, it performed really well, and it's only $37.99. So it's the second time we've had Scythe walk away with a win on this one. One thing I would say is that yes, the Noctua U14 is up there at the top of the graph and it costs £50. But then I'm just looking down, I'm just trying to find where the Gielid is. Oh, that's it. The Gielid Tranquilo, it's £20 cheaper, but there's a 9 degrees Celsius difference between those two. And even though there's 9 degrees, the Gielid actually did end up making more noise as well. So when you mix the Noctua in, it's got a really good mount, really easy, quite well built as well. But the problem with that then is that it obviously does cost you more money. The Scythe Mugen Max, again, it did really well. It's actually, I would say, it's a little bit tinny, like ting, 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 ting. And for the difference between the Scythe Mugen Max and the H5 Universal, the build quality is better, it feels more solid, it's quieter, and you're going to have kind of less issues with it as well. I would put, because I don't particularly like the way that the fans clip on with the side, I would say that yes, you know, this one does perform slightly better, but out of all of them on the day, once you've used all of them, I would probably go with the CryoRig Universal. On to the final mini graph, and it is the big boys. The dual tower, 140mm. I mean, we've got the Noctua NHD15, which we've got here. Then we've got the CryoRig, that comes in at £70. The CryoRig R1 Ultimate, I'm finding difficult to get prices on in the UK at the moment. Amazon with these comes in consistently expensive, but it's the only price I can actually find being advertised at the moment. So we're going to call that the Amazon price as being the right one. That's £90. We do need to get some decent stock in the UK. I will say that. It used to be eBuyer. They don't seem to be carrying a lot of stock at the moment. Not sure why. Then we've got the Noctua NHD15S, which basically means it's got one fan rather than two. That's £65. CryoRig R1 Universal, again Amazon thing, £83. Regintech Thesis, $44.99. Silverstone HEO1, $71.36. And then the Alpenfon Olymp at $59.99. And then when we bring the graph up, what I would personally say is that you can see that the Noctua wins at a decent price. I'd say, as far as I'm concerned, that the Alpenfon, yeah, I would say, to be quite honest with you, this was quite disappointing. It's only a tenner cheaper than the Noctua. It's quite a big difference in price. It is a dual tower. It's got the fans, you know, big fans, big cooler. It should really have done better. The Regintech actually did incredibly well because of the price. Yes, it was slightly warmer, but it's only £45. And that's the thing that really stands out here, is it's 45 quid cooler, and it did incredibly well in that graph considering. So it's not just about all out performance, you take the price into context as well. And you know, it's an easy value for money on that one. But really, pure performance, absolute balance when you've got it there, it would be the Noctua. One cheeky little thing that I will add on the end of this one, and it's probably one that a Noctua are not going to like me saying, but that is, you've got the NHD15 and the NHD15S. Now the difference between the two is there's one fan less, but there's only a £5 difference in price. If you were to buy that fan in a shop separately, it's about £20. So I would actually say that the NHD15S isn't that good value for money. Buy the NHD15. If you don't need the two fans, stick the other one on eBay and make yourself 10 or 15 quid. So moving on to awards for individual coolers, and we'll pick out specific ones to go through. We would give the NHD15 the Performance Award. £70, top the graph consistently. It's got the bomb-proof Noctua mount, which still to this day is the easiest mount you will ever use, and it's pretty much, like I said, it's bomb-proof. I've actually still got my original, literally the first NHD14 I ever got sent with the same mount. These things are built like tanks, but it's just a shame that the fans still do look like baby puke. And that really is what then brings us on to the next one. The CryoRig R1 Ultimate and R1 Universal, only difference between them being the thickness of the fans. I would personally say get my Enthusiast Award, but it could at the same time just as well be the aesthetic side. And it's something that Noctua should really sit up and take note with this. Yes, they are expensive. I've got a funny feeling that's just some mumbo jumbo going on with Amazon, because I'm pretty sure they weren't that expensive when they were on sale at eBuyer. Whether we're waiting for eBuyer to get some more stock in, or maybe it's time for OC UK or Scan to step up to the plate and get these in. But really the thing with me is they've got the black fins at the back and you've got the black fans. So it's kind of, it sits in and it works really well. But the biggest thing is the plastic parts can be changed. You've got the red ones, you've got green ones, you've got blue ones, you've got orange ones. You've got a whole selection of different colours there. That means that you can take your air cooler and you can customise it to match your rig. You don't have to plump for baby sick fans, and you get pretty, top of the graph leading performance. Yes, they're mega expensive, but I would say, like I said, if one of the big e-tailers got on board and started to bring some stock in, the price would probably be a lot different to what's on Amazon. But the most important thing is, and yes, you do have to buy the accent packs separately. I think they're like 15 or 20 quid. But to be able to plumb that in, and the thing that I need to explain to you as well, is that the colours, the red, the blue, the green, the orange, they're like a candy effect. They're like a really deep, sort of like, not metallic, but like a pearl. It's a really, really nice, thick, lovely colour. It's not just a normal boring blue or orange or green. They are properly nice. And when you get them, you'll be like, ooh, that is nice. So that, for me, is why that would get my OC3D Enthusiast Grade Award. When it came to value, I would say the 120mm sort of size, I would say that the Arctic Cooling i32 was good. Can get a bit noisy. Cooling potential is there, but you do need to tame it. But it's one of those ones for less than 24 quid, it's worth a punt, and it doesn't look too bad either. Surprising one for me was this, which is the CryoRig M9, £17, and it was still in our top end graph. Yes, the little 92mm fan does make a racket when you've got it at 12 volts, which is how we tested it. So you could do with tailing it back. But if you're running a non-overclocked i5 or maybe an i3, one of the things I would say to you guys, you're thinking to yourself, I'm on a stock cooler, or I'm not on a very good cooler, I want a new cooler. Should I be getting this for my rig, Tom? Well, if you want change from 20 quid, I would say yes. But one of the most important things for you guys out there that I would say is auto volts isn't stock. So what I would concentrate on doing is just a real quick guide. Open up CPU-Z, load up OCCT, get some load on your CPU. You'll probably see it's running about 1.2 volts or something, 1.2, 1.25 volts or something like that. Then go into your BIOS and manually set that voltage so that you've got it. Say if it's 1.25, set it to 1.25, run the test again. Then what I would start doing is going backwards, set it to 1.24, set it to 1.23, work your way backwards until you get to the point that it's unstable. Then simply find the point that is the lowest voltage you can run with the manually set, and everything still be stable. You want it on Limpack, AVX mode, literally you want it to make your system cry. Run that for about 30 minutes. When you can find the lowest possible one that you can have, then you're finally running an undervolted CPU, and you'll notice that you'll be able to run this with much lower fan speeds. It will make much less noise, and it will still have only have cost you 17 quid. When we come to like a brand award, Noctua would get the performance. They do really well in all the graphs. That's if they don't actually win in all the graphs. Pretty much consistently they were top. Some they were first and second. But anyway, so the Noctuas would win the performance award. But they do have those icky fans. They've always had those icky fans. And I just wish that they would wake up and bring us that awesome fan technology that they've got and just give us a black one. I know that they've got the server grade fans that are black, but we want some that go on these coolers, just these cooler fans in black. Or if they wanted to literally make me cream in my pants, make some nice gloss white ones. Star of the show for me, as far as a brand is concerned, would be CryoRig. Yes, it's the first time that we've had some stuff in, and to be honest with you lot, you deserve a proper clip round the ear roll for not getting in touch with me and making me come and chase you to get some of your coolers. But they were consistently good. Apart from the ones at the top end of the pile, which are ridiculous price because we can't really find anywhere other than Amazon to be ripped off for them, they did do really well. But the thing that I found with them is that the mounts were okay, not brilliant, but they're definitely better than something like the Be Quiets. The aesthetics though is really where I find that they take a step forward. They're not quite as good performance wise as the Noctuas, and that was pretty consistent across all of the graphs, but they look better, and the market is starting to go into a direction now where aesthetics is everything. So if you've got a quiet product that looks good, which these do, and especially with the ones that you can replace these bits on, they can go that even step further in the fact that you can customize them. I would go as far as to say this is more of an enthusiast based product. This is something that I would like to have in my rig with a massive window on it. We've not tested the C1 because sadly we didn't test the C1 in the end. Nice jump. We didn't test the C1 in the end because it just arrived a bit late. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do some stuff with that as a standalone, and I've already been playing around with it, and you can be sure that you're going to see that in something of mine in the not too distant future. So overall, as a brand award for the whole package in this roundup, we would give the CryoRig range the Enthusiast Choice Award. But then finishing with a happy flourish, and we're going to give the range for the Value for Money Award to the Regintex. The mount that you put the fan on with is very thermal right, and it's not very nice, and it's all a bit tinny, but they performed kind of midships in the graphs, but they were pretty much consistently the cheapest. And to be honest with you, my favourite two out of these ones would be these two. This one was, I think it was 45 quid, and it was within a few degrees of the Noctua at almost, well, not twice the price, but 2/3 the price more. And this, I do believe, trying to remember off the top of my head, considering we've had 35 other coolers here today, was £30, and it's their Downdraft cooler. And there was 1 degree's difference between that and something that cost more than twice the price. So the Value for Money Award, it's kind of the proper happy smiley kind of rave face, you know, the smiley that you have on your phone. These just should be a great port of call. You might not like the red and white fans, that's fair enough. I mean, I like red and white, but I'm not 100% sure even I would want to use those fans in my rig. But when you consider that you could buy this cooler, buy a better, maybe focused flow fan or something like that, and still have a cooler that would be cheaper than the other ones, and I would be astounded if it didn't then outperform the other ones, it's an absolute no-brainer. So we've had a new rig, we've had all these new coolers, we've done a monumental roundup. Congratulations if you sat all the way through it. I'm now off to go and dribble and just kind of because of all of these coolers that are now going to be stuck in my head. But for now at least, with probably one of the reviews that's been the most work that we have ever done, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.